There is a certain point in life when you start feeling that you want something different. Not necessarily because your life is bad or because everything around you is falling apart, but because somewhere inside you begin to realize that the life you are living doesn't completely reflect the life you imagine for yourself. You start thinking about the kind of relationship you want, the kind of person you want to become, the kind of environment you want to live in, and the kind of peace you want to feel when you wake up in the morning. And even if you don't know exactly how to get there yet, you can feel that there is something more that you want for yourself. We often make ourselves guilty for wanting that. We tell ourselves that we should simply be grateful for what we already have, as if being grateful means we are no longer allowed to want anything else. But those two things don't have to contradict each other. You can appreciate your life and still want to improve it. You can be thankful for what you have today and still believe that something better is possible tomorrow. Wanting more doesn't automatically mean that what you have is not enough. Sometimes it simply means that you are growing and your idea of what feels right for you is changing. The difficult part is that we often look at our present circumstances and assume that they are going to be remain the same. If something has not happened yet, we start thinking that maybe it is not meant for us. If we haven't found the right relationship, we wonder if perhaps we are going to be alone. If our career has not gone the way we imagined, we begin questioning whether we are capable of achieving more. After a while, we stop seeing our current situation as a temporary chapter and start treating it as a prediction of our entire future. But your current circumstances are not promise of what your life will look like forever. They're simply where you happen to be right now. And maybe that's something you need to remind yourself of more often. You don't know everything that is going to happen in your life, and that's actually a beautiful thing. There are people you haven't met yet, opportunities you haven't discovered, places you haven't seen, and experiences that you haven't even imagined. You cannot look at your life today and decide that you already know how the entire story ends. There is still so much that can change, sometimes in a ways you could never have planned yourself. This is where I think manifestation can become something much more meaningful than simply wishing for a particular outcome. It doesn't have to be about constantly thinking about what you want, obsessing over when it will happen, or trying to convince yourself that the universe owes you something. Manifestation can simply mean allowing yourself to believe that something better is possible before you have any proof that it is. It is giving yourself permission to imagine a different life without immediately taking yourself out of it. Because many of us have become very good at doing exactly that. We imagine something we want, and almost immediately we start explaining why it probably won't happen. We think about a better career and tell ourselves that we are not qualified enough. We think about a healthier relationship and tell ourselves that people like that don't exist. We imagine living somewhere different and immediately think about all the reasons we could never afford it. Before anything has even happened, we have already rejected the possibility ourselves. Sometimes the first step is simply to stop doing that. You don't have to convince yourself that everything you want will definitely happen exactly as you imagined it. That is not realistic, and life doesn't work that way. But you can stop assuming that it won't happen. You can leave a little space for possibilities. You can say, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm open to the idea that my life could become very different from what it is today. And when you begin thinking that way, something changes in the way you move through life. You start making different decisions because you no longer believe that you have to accept whatever comes your way. You become more aware of what actually feels right for you, and you become less willing to stay in a situations simply because they are familiar. You may start saying no to things you would have once accepted, not because you suddenly think you are better than everyone else, but because you finally understand that your time, energy, and attention are valuable. That's also why deserving better is not really about waiting for some perfect life to appear. It's about recognizing that you have a say in what you allow into your life. You cannot control every person you meet or every situation that happens to you, but you can decide what you continue participating in. You can decide what you tolerate, what you walk away from, what you make room for, and what you no longer want to carry with you. And sometimes getting closer to the life you want means letting go of something you once thought you needed. That could be a relationship, a friendship, a career path, a certain image of yourself, or even an expectation about how your life was supposed to look. Letting go doesn't always mean that something was terrible. Sometimes something simply served its purpose in your life, and continuing to hold on to it prevents you from discovering what comes next. I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out. We compare our lives to people who seem to be moving faster and start wondering why we are still standing in the same place. But you really don't know what someone else's life feels like behind what you can see. And you don't know what your own life is going to look like a few years from now. Your lifeline doesn't need to resemble everyone else's for it to be a good one. There may be things you want right now that haven't arrived yet, and that's okay. You don't have to spend every day worrying about when they are coming. You can want something deeply without making your entire happiness dependent on receiving it immediately. There is a difference between believing that something better is possible and believing that you cannot be happy until it happens. So, while you're hoping for the relationship you want, live your life. While you're working towards the career you imagine, enjoy the life you have today. While you're becoming more confident, don't wait until you're completely confident before allowing yourself to be seen. Your future should not become a reason to postpone your present. And perhaps the most important thing is that you don't need to become a completely different person before you deserve the things you want. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to have everything figured out to be respected. You don't need to reach some imaginary level of success before you're allowed to feel proud of yourself. Growth is something you can choose because you want a better life, not because you believe the person you are right now is unworthy of one. Maybe you have spent a lot of time trying to convince other people to choose you, understand you, stay with you, or recognize your value. But the older you get, the more you realize that not everything needs to be forced. The right things in your life should not constantly require you to abandon yourself just to keep them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop chasing what keeps making you question whether you're enough and start trusting that something more suitable can exist for you. That doesn't mean walking away from everything the moment it becomes difficult. Life isn't supposed to be effortless, and neither are relationship or careers. It simply means learning the difference between something that is difficult because it is helping you grow, something that is difficult because it is continuously taking something away from you. And once you understand the difference, your idea of what you deserve begins to change. You stop looking for the most exciting thing and start looking for the thing that actually feels right. You stop confusing attention with affection and you stop confusing familiarity with happiness. You begin to understand that peace can be valuable too, and that a good life doesn't necessarily have to look impressive from the outside. So, if there is something you have been quietly hoping for, don't be afraid to admit that you want it. You don't need to feel silly for wanting a beautiful relationship, a successful career, financial freedom, a peaceful home, good friendships, or simply a life that feels more like your own. These things may not happen exactly when you expect them to, and they may not arrive in the exact form you imagine, but that doesn't mean you should stop believing that better is possible. Maybe your life is still becoming what you want it to be. Maybe the things that feel like delays right now will make more sense later. Maybe some of the things you're losing are creating a space for things you haven't even thought about it. And when something better does come into your life, I hope you don't feel like you have to question whether you're allowed to have it. I hope you can accept it without immediately waiting for it to disappear. I hope you can enjoy good things without constantly preparing yourself for them to go wrong. Because sometimes we become so used to disappointment that even happiness can feel unfamiliar. You deserve to experience something that doesn't require you to constantly prove yourself. You deserve relationships where effort is mutual, opportunities where you don't have to beg to be valued, and a life where you don't feel like you're constantly trying to catch up with everyone else. And if you haven't found those things yet, that doesn't mean you won't. It simply means your story has not reached that part yet. So, don't rush yourself into accepting a life you don't actually want just because you're afraid that something better might never come. Keep working on yourself, but do it from a place of love. Keep dreaming, but don't forget to live while you're dreaming. Keep your standards, but don't let them become a wall that prevents you from experiencing real life. Most importantly, don't make your current circumstances the limit of what you believe is possible for you. There is still so much ahead. You don't know who you will become, what you will accomplish, who you will meet, or what kind of life you will eventually create. Maybe that's the most comforting thing about the future. You haven't seen it yet. So let yourself believe that it can be good, not perfect, not effortless, just good in a way that feels real to you. And if something inside you keep telling you that you deserve better, maybe you don't need to silence that feeling. Maybe you need to listen to it and let it guide you towards the life you have been quietly imagining. You don't have to chase it desperately. You don't have to force it. You just have to keep moving forward while trusting that there is still so much more waiting for you. And if this video gave you something to think about or reminded you of something you needed to hear, you can leave a like. If you enjoy these kind of calm conversations about life, growth, and becoming the person you want to be, consider subscribing. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember that where you are right now is the only part of your story. You deserve better, and there is nothing wrong with believing that better is possible. Thank you for watching.